Hi all, welcome to BIAS Academy. Science and Technology audio notes for prelims and mains, Unit 5, Part 5, Chapter 3. Chapter is Earthquakes and Tsunamis. The topics which we're going to cover are, under earthquake, we're going to see occurrence of earthquake, impacts of earthquakes, and earthquake zones, and measures taken by the Government of India to manage earthquakes. Next, we're going to see tsunami, and then we'll see the formation or the occurrence of tsunami, that is tsunami genesis, and we'll look at the characteristics of tsunami, and then we'll look at tsunami management and the guidelines issued by NDMA for management of tsunami. So let's start with the first topic, that is earthquake. Earthquake is the most unpredictable and highly destructive of all natural disasters. It is most unpredictable and highly destructive. Earthquake is a phenomenon of ground shake due to the sudden release of energy from the basement activity underground. Earthquakes are generally caused when the rocks underground suddenly breaks along the fault lines. The earthquakes are of tectonic origin and are proved to be the most devastating disasters, and the area of influence is also quite large. Earthquakes result from a series of earth movements brought about by a sudden release of energy due to the tectonic activities in the earth's crust. The tectonic plates, when rubbed against each other, the pressure built up results in breaking of the plates all along their fault line. When the rock breaks, the earthquake occurs. The spot underground where the rock has been broken is called focus of the earthquake. The place right above the focus on the top of the ground is called epicenter. You have to remember this for your prelim. The spot where the rock has been broken underground is called focus, that is the focus point. The place right above the focus on the top of the ground, that is on the earth's surface, that same point on the earth's surface is called epicenter. Okay. The energy release spreads out in the form of seismic waves. The damage caused due to an earthquake depends on the location of the epicenter of the earthquake. So the damage is dependent on the location of the epicenter. Okay. Major destruction occurs near the epicenter because of the maximum intensity. Almost 5 lakh earthquakes occur each year all over the world. So roughly around 5 lakh earthquakes occur around the world. Okay. Of these, 1 lakh earthquakes can be actually felt. We cannot feel all of them, only 1 lakh are felt. Majority of the earthquakes occur in the oceanic seismic belt. Himalayan mountain plate is another zone where massive earthquakes occur. So most of the earthquakes occur near the oceanic seismic belt and the Himalayan mountain plate. Okay, the top 10 earthquake prone countries in the world are, let's look at decreasing order of intensity. First one is Japan, Indonesia, USA, New Zealand, Fiji Islands, Tonga, Chile, Papua New Guinea, Mexico, and Solomon Islands. Earthquakes can also be human induced. The development and enhancement in technology help man to exploit the nature, but at the same time increase the risk of earthquakes. Important human activities that lead to earthquakes are drilling for oil wells, coal mining, collecting large volumes of water from the construction of a dam. So these also lead to earthquakes. Okay, then what are the impacts of earthquakes? A number of natural changes occur during the earthquake. There are, let's look at 6 areas. One is ground rupture. First one is the breakage and displacement of the earth's surface. Such a ground rupture damages the structures like dams, nuclear power plants, and even buildings. The second one is landslides. When an earthquake is accompanied by other threats like volcanic activity or storms, landslides may occur. Third one is fire accident. The damage of electrical power or a gas line during the earthquake can result in chances of fire accidents and high death roll in crowded areas. Fourth point, solid liquefaction. When a water saturated in a granular soil loses its strength due to earthquake, it crumbles due to loosening. Such process called soil liquefaction, it causes damage to dams, large commercial structures, resulting in their complete collapse. So what is soil liquefaction? When a water saturated in a granular soil, that is, for example, there is a porous soil. In that, when the water is accumulated or saturated in that, so the strength of the soil is loosened. So eventually it crumbles. So this is called soil liquefaction. Okay. The fifth point is tsunami. Earthquake along the coastline in the ocean may induce the rise of sea waves called tsunami. Okay, when was the Japanese tsunami occurred? In 2011. Okay. Sixth one, after effects. Major earthquakes cause a lot of destruction and damage to the buildings and other losses like severe death toll, damage to property, huge displacement of people, leading to a big burden on the country. So now let's look at the next topic, that is earthquake zonation of the country, or different earthquake zones and their magnitude. The earthquake prone areas of the country have been identified on the basis of scientific inputs relating to seismicity, earthquakes that occur in the past, and tectonic setup of the region. Based on these inputs, Bureau of Indian Standards has grouped the country into 4 seismic zones. Which one has grouped the country into 4 seismic zones? That is Bureau of Indian Standards. Okay, there are 4 seismic zones, that is Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 2, Zone 3, Zone 4, Zone 5. Of this, Zone 5 is seismically the most active region, while Zone 2 is the least. What are the zones? There is no Zone 1. It starts with Zone 2, Zone 3, Zone 4, Zone 5. Zone 5 is the seismically most active region, that is earthquake prone region. Zone 2 is the least prone region. Okay, let's start with Zone 5. It comprises of northeastern India, parts of J&K, Himachal Pradesh, Uttaranchal, Rann of Kutch in Gujarat, parts of North Bihar, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Zone 4, it covers parts of Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, that is next is Delhi, Sikkim, northern parts of UP, Bihar, West Bengal and parts of Gujarat, and small portions of Maharashtra and near the west coast and Rajasthan. Zone 3 comprises of Kerala, Goa, Lakshadweep Islands, remaining parts of UP, Gujarat, West Bengal, parts of Punjab, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka. Zone 2, it covers the remaining part of the country. The modified Mercalli intensity, Mercalli, I'll spell it M-E-R-C-A-L-L-I, Mercalli intensity, which measures the impact of the earthquakes on the surface of the earth, broadly associated the various zones into following zones. The Mercalli intensity, which measures the impact of the earthquakes on the surface of the earth, is also given a zonification. So there are Zone 2, Zone 2, Zone 3, Zone 4, Zone 5. Zone 2, low intensity zone. The scale on which it is at 6. Zone 3, moderate intensity zone. The scale is at 7. Zone 4, severe intensity zone. On the Mercalli intensity scale is at 8. The last one, that is Zone 5, very severe intensity zone. The Mercalli scale intensity is at 9 and above. Okay. So now let's look at the various measures in India for effective management of earthquakes. The National Center for Seismology is monitoring the earthquake activity in and around the country round the clock throughout its national seismological network, along with global and regional seismic monitoring networks. So it has networks with other countries as well. So the National Center for Seismology, or NCS, operates National Seismological Network with 84 stations. How many stations? 84 stations. These stations are connected to the headquarters at Noida. The NCS headquarters is in Noida. How? Through a VSAT for real-time data communication. You remember what is VSAT? We have discussed during satellite communications. These stations are connected to NCS headquarters in Noida. All these 84 stations are connected to the headquarters in Noida through VSAT for real-time data communication. Okay. In the event of earthquake, NCS, that is National Center for Seismology, locates them using the data from its network and disseminates earthquake parameters to all the concerned government departments and other stakeholders through SMS, email and fax. However, this causes some delay in dissemination and also restricts the number of recipients. To overcome this, a mobile app, India Quake, I'll spell it INDIA Quake, QUAKE, has been developed by NCS for automatic dissemination of earthquake parameters. What are the parameters? Location, time and magnitude are shared. The app was released in the year 2017, which will make information dissemination faster with no restrictions on the number of recipients. So it can be sent to more number of people. There is no restriction on it. Okay. Any citizen can download this app. Which app? India Quake. Can download this app and get the real-time earthquake location information on his or her mobile. Other than scientific and administrative benefits of this app, it will help in reducing panic against people during an earthquake. The pilot project on earthquake early warning system is on implementation in North India, Uttarakhand, by Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee. The system is under testing by IIT Roorkee. Such type of system gives some lead time for issue of warning on occurrence of an earthquake, so that some remedial actions regarding vacating the building, shutting down the critical operations, etc. may be taken up. The Indian National Center for Oceanic Information Services, that is INCOIS, has the mandate of detecting tsunami-genic earthquakes occurring in the Indian Ocean as well as the global oceans within 10 minutes of occurrence of the earthquake, and disseminating the tsunami-related advisories to the concerned authorities through email, fax, SMS, GTS websites. The next one, the India Tsunami Early Warning Center, established by INCOIS, has the latest scientific techniques to provide early warning systems or early warnings for an impending tsunami to all the countries in Indian Ocean region. So we have seen the various measures taken by Government of India in the management of earthquake. That is National Center for Seismology. It has 84 stations, which is headquartered at Noida. It has also built an app that is called India Quake. What does it do? It gives information, enables faster dissemination of information related to earthquakes. And then we have seen pilot project on our earthquake early warning system by IIT Roorkee. After that, there is Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services, and then we have India Tsunami Early Warning Center. Okay, now let's go to the second chapter of our lesson, that is tsunami. What is tsunami? Tsunami is a highly destructive disaster which can clean thousands of lives within a short period of time. India is also highly vulnerable to the impacts of tsunami. The term tsunami is derived from two Japanese words. One is su and nami. Su, that is TSU. What does it mean? Su means harbor, HARBOUR, harbor. And the nami, the second part, which means a wave. That is, in total, it's a harbor wave. Tsunami denotes a giant wave that inundates the harbor. So, big wave which inundates the harbor, that is tsunami. Tsunami is a set of ocean waves caused by any large abrupt disturbances at the seafloor. Okay, then how is tsunami formed? What is tsunami genesis? The process of origin of tsunami is called tsunami genesis. Earthquakes at the bottom of the ocean and close to the shore constitute the major factor of generation of tsunami. Majority of the tsunamis are produced by large and shallow focus-based earthquakes associated with the movement of oceanic and continental plates. The sliding of dense oceanic plate under the light continental plate results in fracture, providing a vertical movement of the sea floor that allows a quick and efficient transfer of energy from solid earth through the ocean. This energy immediately sets an oscillation of waves that travel outward in a circular fashion. As the waves approach the land, the speed decreases and the wave height increases, resulting in the submergence of the land. I'll repeat, as the wave approaches the land, the speed decreases and the wave height increases. The speed decreases and the height of the wave increases. This results in submergence of the land. Underwater landslides associated with the smaller earthquake are also capable of causing destructive tsunamis. For example, tsunami on July 17, 1998, which destructed the northwest coast of Papua New Guinea, was based on the above reason. What was that? Underwater landslides associated with smaller earthquakes that led to a tsunami in 1988 in Papua New Guinea and its west coast. Okay, volcanic eruptions under the sea can also cause tsunami. For example, eruption of volcano, that is Mount Krakatau in Indonesia. In 1883, it resulted in a massive tsunami with a wave height of around 30 meters. Then Anaka Krakatau tsunami, which occurred in 2018 as well. Even asteroid hitting can also cause tsunami. For example, scientists discovered that a 4-kilometer diameter asteroid that landed offshore Chile approximately 2 million years ago had generated a very massive tsunami which has shaken the South American and Antarctic continents. Okay, let's look at the characteristics of a tsunami. There are around 5. One is magnitude. The characteristics depends on magnitude, speed, height, submergence, and time period of the tsunami. Number 1, the magnitude of the earthquake. The earthquakes of magnitude 6 and above can cause tsunami. December 26, 2004 tsunami that killed 2.4 lakh people was based on the earthquake of a magnitude 9.3 on the Richter scale. Second characteristic, speed of tsunami. The speed of tsunami wave can be around 100 kilometers per hour at a depth of 4,000 meters, where it records 36 kilometer depth of 10 meters. Third, height of tsunami. Most of the tsunami waves measure 3 meter tall, but height may vary from few centimeters to a maximum of 30 meters. Fourth characteristics of tsunami, that is submergence distance. The tsunami wave can submerge the land up to 1.5 kilometers from the shore. 6. The time period of the tsunami. Majority of the tsunamis last from 10 minutes to 30 minutes, but time period may vary between 5 seconds to more than an hour. Okay, these are the characteristics of the tsunami. Okay, what are the impacts of tsunami? Tsunami rank very high on a scale of natural disasters. Tsunamis lead to severe death toll. Since 1850, tsunamis killed close to 4.5 lakh people all over the world. The 2004 tsunami alone killed around 2.4 lakh people. Tsunami also destroys the basic and advanced infrastructure in coastal areas. The reconstruction activities require more financial resource, which many coastal countries can't afford. Sometimes tsunami may result in secondary hazards which may be further destructive. For example, 2011 tsunami in Japan led to a major nuclear disaster where the core of Fukushima reactor exploded. Radiation alert was given to up to 30 kilometers from the reactor site. The flooding of coastal regions may even cause outbreaks of diseases like typhoid, cholera, chikungunya, dengue. The livelihood of fishermen will be very badly affected due to the loss they incur. Okay, even though India did not experience any post-independent tsunami up to 2004, but the country had experienced tsunamis from 18th century itself. The first tsunami recorded in India was in 1762. There was a tsunami in Bay of Bengal with a wave height of 18 meters. On 19th August 1868, India experienced tsunami at Port Blair at a wave height of 4 meters. In 1881, at Port Blair, again in Port Blair and Nagapattinam. Madras recorded tsunami on 27th August 1883 with a wave height of 1.8 meter. In 1984, there was a tsunami again at Port Blair. On 27th November 1945, there was a tsunami of 11 to 11.5 meters at Gulf of Cambay, Gujarat. Okay. Tsunami management activities, and what are the tsunami management activities carried out by India? Let's look at that. The government of India has put in place early warning system for mitigation of oceanic disasters. Under whom? Under the control of Indian National Centre for Oceanic Information Services, that is INCOIS. Where is INCOIS? It is in Hyderabad. You might get a question in prelims. You have to focus on the location of the headquarters as well. The early warning system for mitigation of oceanic disasters under the control of INCOIS has been started. A state-of-art tsunami early warning center was established with the necessary computational and communication infrastructure that enables reception of real-time data from sensors, analysis of data, generation and dissemination of tsunami advisories following a standard operation procedure. Seismic and sea level data are continuously monitored in the early warning center using custom-built software application that generates alarms, alerts in the warning centers whenever a preset threshold is crossed. Tsunami warning alerts are then generated based on a preset decision support rules and disseminated to the concerned authorities for action as pre-decided standard operating procedures. A real-time seismic monitoring network, that is RTSMN, was set up by the Indian Meteorological Department. The National Institute of Ocean Technology, that is NIOT, National Institute of Ocean Technology, that is NIOT, which is in Chennai, has installed bottom pressure recorders in the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. They have installed what? They have installed the National Institute of Ocean Technology, which is in Chennai, has installed bottom pressure recorders. They are also called BPRs, bottom pressure recorders, where in Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. These BPRs detect tsunami-genic earthquakes, and the information is immediately collected and disseminated. In addition, both the NIOT and the Survey of India have installed tide gauges all along the Indian coast to monitor the progress of tsunami waves. So these are the management activities carried out by India. So now let's look at the guidelines released by NDMA for tsunami management in India. NDMA released guidelines for tsunami management on 3rd September 2001. So let's look at the highlights of these guidelines. Number 1, development of comprehensive solutions for improving the vulnerability reduction of the coastal areas. This can be done by development of bioshields, water bioshields, mangrove plantations, as well as other plantations as well, and also addressing the coastal pollution in time-bound manner. Second guideline of NDMA for tsunami management. Tsunami early warning systems established at INCOIS should be periodically reviewed and modernized to identify the onset of tsunami immediately after the earthquake strikes at the epicenter. Third, large-scale mobilization and creation of trained personnel from the coastal communities for addressing the multi-hazard situations. Fourth guideline, preparation of coastal vulnerability maps, which will be very crucial to analyze and identify the most vulnerable areas. Number 5, encouraging the district management authority is to include coastal protection activities under schemes like MGNREGA and other central government schemes. Sixth guideline, a robust mechanism for strengthening the post of tsunami capacities of the stakeholders has to be strengthened. So these are the guidelines of NDMA for tsunami management. Okay, so we have discussed the occurrence of earthquakes and the impacts of earthquakes, and then we have discussed about the zones of earthquakes, that is zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5. There is no zone 1, and then we have seen the measures taken by the government of India. Next, we have discussed tsunami, how is the formation of tsunami or tsunamigenesis, and what are the characteristics. Their characteristics are dependent upon speed, height, all these things. Next, we have seen tsunami management in India, and what are the NDMA guidelines to manage tsunami. What are the guidelines? NDMA guidelines are, building up bioshields, reducing the coastal pollution, upgrading the established systems, training the coastal communities, preparation of coastal vulnerability maps, and strengthening the mechanism. Okay, so with this, we'll end our today's lecture. If you have any doubts or queries or need any support, you can mail us to piasacademy@gmail.com. Thank you. Have a great day.